he means, or what he thinks people think he means when he keeps saying, get Brexit done. People.
Well, I'll tell you what it means to me. What getting Brexit done, it means getting our country out of the EU by January the 31st, which is what we can do with the deal that we have, then getting on with all our wonderful agenda for investing in the NHS, the biggest ever boost to the NHS, uplifting funding for every primary, every secondary school in the country, 20,000 more police, and an infrastructure revolution for the whole country, moving our country forward. Alternatively, the choice the electorate faces in the next few days, next Thursday, is paralysis, chaos, a groundhog year at least under a Corbyn-Sturgeon coalition, because that's the only mathematical alternative in which they fail to get Brexit done, with disastrous consequences both politically and economically. There is a tidal wave of investment waiting to come into this country once we can get Brexit done, get our deal over the line. It's ready to go. Let's take this country forward and move on.
So, just to be clear, though, we're not really out on the 30th of January, are we? Because we're still following EU rules. We're still paying significant sums to the EU. We're not out.
No. What happens is that we come out in a state of balance and equilibrium, and we have a smooth transition for businesses, which is what everybody wanted to achieve, and that's a great thing. We come out as one whole UK, but we are able to begin taking back control of our money, our borders. We can begin with an Australian-style points-based immigration system. You can take back control of your immigration. You can take back control of your legal system.
But do you think we're really out at the end of January? Do you think we're really out? Do you think we're really out at the end of January?
Yes, we're legally out. We are legally out, and that is an amazing thing.
We'll still be in the transition.
There is a transition period, but that's...
And in some ways, people would say it's the worst of all possible worlds, because we won't have a vote. We'll be following EU rules, and we won't have a vote.
You put your finger on it, Robert. It is transitory. It is a transitional period, and the reason for doing it is obviously so that business has a smooth glide path out of the EU. But we then get on with turbocharging all the opportunities of Brexit, with working on the new free trade partnership that we're going to do with the EU, but also simultaneously working on all the opportunities that the UK has around the world. And the great thing about it, if I may say, is that from a parliamentary and a political point of view, it ends the stasis, it ends the gridlock, it ends the chaos that we've seen for the last 3.5 years. Because that is the problem.
And obviously, I don't wish to interrupt you, but nonetheless, we're not properly out. We're not properly out until we're through the transition.
No, we are out of the... Let's be clear, we're out of the EU. We've voluntarily, and we can, don't forget, as a sovereign power, we can terminate the transition period at any time or do whatever we want. That, of course. So we're out. We've taken back control. We are legally outside the jurisdiction of the EU.
Well, except we're not during the transition. We're not legally outside. We're not. Because we're not.
No, sorry. We are able to begin the work of doing free trade deals.
We're not out until we're through the transition. No, you know this. I mean, come on. You know that we're not out properly until we're through the transition. We're still subject to EU rulemaking. Even new directives we are subject to.
But if we choose at any stage from January to come out of the transition period, that's up to us.
So when are we coming out? When are we coming out then? All right, when are we coming out?
What we've chosen to do is to have a transition period, as you well know, for the smoothness and convenience of business, which is the right thing to do. But the decision is ours, and it's a fantastic moment for this country.
So the decision will be ours if you win the election. When are we coming out of the transition?
Well, the transition period ends, as you know, by the end of 2020. But that is ample time. That is ample time. And you should be of good cheer, Robert, because we can do it. And people said, oh well, you know, you'll never get it all done by the end of 2020. Nonsense. Look at what we did in 3 months. They said and I think possibly even you said that it would be impossible.
No, I don't think I did ever say that. I may have said that there are some challenges here.
Maybe you didn't. Well, then have the same optimism now.
I'm not somebody who is allowed to be either optimistic or pessimistic.
But you should be optimistic.
But I can show you what you did. So you negotiated that, right? These are the things that you negotiated, right? Political declaration and some changes to the Northern Ireland Protocol. This is what Theresa May negotiated. I mean, this is 10% of what was negotiated of 2 years. And hang on. The free trade deal that we think is closest to the one you want, which is the Canadian one, is double the size of this. You can't do this in a year. You can't do this in a year.
This is full of all sorts of stuff about ongoing court cases in the ECJ, the pension rights of
Have
EU
you seen
officials.
the Canadian trade deal?
Have you ever known?
It's twice the size of this.
Have you ever known two countries start free trade negotiations or start negotiations on a new deal when they were already in perfect alignment in regulatory terms and had zero tariffs and zero quotas between them? That's what that's where we are.
It's plainly but you're absolutely right. It's a very, very important point. I agree, it's an important point, but that begs the question. What you're saying when you say perfect alignment is that we already follow the same rules, but that argument only holds if you are confident we will continue to follow the same rules. So are we going to continue to follow the same rules as the EU as the price of getting this quick deal?
Like any big...
Don't be so scathing about it.
No, because I think, there's a sort of negativity about all this.
No, it's not negative. People want to know what getting Brexit done means. That's why I'm asking you very politely, very respectfully.
It means coming out of the EU, which
when
we will
going
do
to have
on January the 31st.
The trade deal that you've promised.
And of course, it will. We can get it done within a year. And there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't, because, as I say, we have zero tariff, zero quota arrangements. And also, what we can do is look for other markets around the world for British agriculture, for British business.
What do you think the quickest deal the EU has ever done with another partner? What do you think the fastest they've ever done is?
The EU has never done a deal with any partner that began with zero tariff, zero quota arrangements.
But what do you think the fastest is?
Your question is totally irrelevant.
Why is it irrelevant?
Because the EU has never...
It's only irrelevant because you're not thinking of diverging from EU rules. And of course you are thinking of diverging from EU rules over the future. So it is legally complicated. It's not negative. It's what we call realistic.
Great respect, Robert. All big free trade deals have a system of a joint committee that, in the event of changes and divergence, decides whether or not there is an inhibition or restriction on free trade or competition, and arbitrates in that way. That's how the Canada, the EU-Canada deal works. That is how we will do it. But be in no doubt that we are in a fantastic position. We are absolutely ready to go. And the great thing about our deal is that we have it agreed, supported by every single one of the MPs, of the candidates.
No. I don't have any doubt that if you get your majority, you will get your deal through by the end of January, because you have done this unique thing, which I have to say, some people would say it's sort of weird in the context of our parliamentary system, as you forced them all to sign up.
I have not forced them. That's totally unfair. There was absolutely no lobotomy of our...
You didn't say they couldn't be candidates.
No, not at all.
But I still want to know, you are the expert, I'm not the expert, you're the expert. What is the fastest time that the EU has ever taken on a free trade negotiation?
The EU has never had to do a deal or embarked on a deal where it began in a state of perfect alignment.
I'm going to tell you, it was 3 years, it was Vietnam.
It's totally irrelevant.
It's not totally irrelevant.
And all those who doubt our ability to do it should look at what I achieved, or what we achieved with the negotiations to change the withdrawal agreement.
Now, this whole issue of the perfect alignment that you talk about, okay, that does cause at least a serious set of problems in terms of the trade deal you want to do with the United States, because that alignment, for example, includes food standards. And it is clear from the Americans' own briefing that they do not want the UK to follow EU food standards if we are to get a free trade deal with them. So how are you going to get an American free trade deal if we're not going to take, for example, famous chlorinated chicken or hormone-injected beef? How are we going to get the trade deal with the US if we're not going to follow?
There are plenty of ways in which we can... Of course, we are going to guarantee our food standards, protecting our high food standards. We're guaranteeing our animal welfare rules.
So are food standards more important than getting a trade deal with America?
There are plenty of areas. No, there are plenty of areas where we
I
can
think
have
you are
fantastic...
saying it's more important. Food standards are more important than a free trade deal. Is that right?
Let me answer the question. Well, there are plenty of areas in which we can do a free trade deal with the US. I mean, for instance, aviation, cabotage, insurance. There are plenty of Scotch whisky. The tariffs at the moment that the UK places on, that the US places on British products, which are totally absurd. We have massive opportunities, we need to seize them now. And it's only by getting Brexit done, ending the chaos in Parliament, ending the acrimony, the division and the deadlock, that we'll be able to move forward. And that's, the most important thing, because there's also an economic drag anchor caused by this delay.
You talked about the tidal wave of investment. Now, you have said the tidal wave of investment. Give me one deal that you know will happen if we leave at the end of January. One deal.
With one other country or
just a commercial deal, because you constantly talk about this tidal wave of investment that's going to come into the UK when we leave the EU. So name a deal that you know is going to happen.
I'm not going to. What do you mean, a commercial deal?
Yes, a commercial deal.
There are plenty. You'll have read in the papers yourself. There are plenty of.
Tell me one that's going to happen when we leave.
Goldman Sachs had a study the other day saying there are about 150 billion pounds worth of investment waiting to come in just if we could get my deal over the line. Now, of FDI. Now, that's a lot of money. And the question for the people of this country is, what sort of Christmas present do they want? Do they want 150 billion pounds of inward investment as a result of getting our deal done, moving forward with a working majority, or do they want, another year of chaos and confusion and
Can you actually
delay?
tell us a specific deal, though, out of that alleged 150 billion?
Well, I've come across plenty of people, I don't wish to talk about it now, but I have plenty of people who say they want us to get Brexit done because they see huge opportunities for this country and they want to move forward.
Now, the other thing you've said in the last couple of days...
it's not me, it's a reputable... a big bank that has a very, very, that by the way was not initially very enthusiastic about Brexit at all, but now sees getting this deal over the line as a massive opportunity.
I think many investment banks would say the way that, for example, markets have been depressed by the uncertainty means that whatever happens, and that's not necessarily an endorsement of Brexit.
True.
It's not exactly an endorsement of Brexit.
Robert.
I want to get on, though, to a very important issue which you've raised recently, which is you do believe that these big internet companies have to pay their fair share of tax.
Yeah, I do.
But President Trump has made it very clear that he disagrees. He's actually engaged in a trade war with France at the moment, who are doing precisely that.
Well,
again, I ask you, would you regard imposing that tax as more important than getting a free trade deal with America?
You keep trying to set up these false alternatives.
They're not false alternatives.
They are.
They are the reality of politics.
No, I'm sorry. The reality is that we can get Brexit done on January the 31st, then get on with taking back control of our borders, our immigration system, stopping uncontrolled and unlimited immigration. Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party would have uncontrolled and unlimited immigration, even without doing a new deal with the EU, or even with the new deal they do with the EU. We can take back control of our laws. We can do things differently and better. And when it comes to taxing internet giants on their revenues in this country, you're making an important point, and I do think that we should be taxing them properly, and we will be bringing forward measures to do that. But it is not necessarily the case that we have to do it in such a discriminatory and heavy-handed way.
I get that. We're almost out of it. I've got one more question.
So you're setting up a false alternative?
Well, I'm not sure that I am. Some people see you as a great optimist. Some people accuse you of doing what you've always said you do, which is cake and eat it stuff.
Some people said
not necessarily. But anyway, but I've got a final question, and it's a really important question, right? We get to the end of 2020. Okay, and you have a choice. You have a choice between extending the transition, a hard Brexit through a WTO, or a soft...
Sorry, there's complete confusion of terms. We're leaving the EU with a great deal on January the 31st.
No, you may well face a genuine choice at the end of 2020 about whether we extend the transition or you continue negotiating a trade deal. What are you going to do?
We're leaving on January the 31st. We will then
Why are you avoiding this question?
Because you're posing a totally false alternative. What we will do is take advantage of the transition period to negotiate a new trade partnership with the EU, and as I say, we're in a state of grace. We are at perfect liberty at any stage to do whatever we want because we're coming out of the EU.
All right.
And we are the only.
I want you now to tell ITV's viewers something terribly important based on what you've said. Are you saying that after the end of January, you and I, in fact, you and anybody, will stop talking about Brexit? Is that it?
Yes. And let me say something.
That's not true.
We will have got Brexit done. And you will find that it moves, because what will happen is that the parliamentary agony will be over. And the political agony will be over. And the misery and tedium and procrastination that's been going on will be over. And even you, with your lust to cover international negotiations of all kind, we'll
see.
What people really want to talk about is our incredible programme. They will want to talk about our incredible programme to unite and level up the country with massive investments in the NHS, massive investments in policing, in infrastructure, and taking our country
I think, as I may have said a little bit earlier, you're very good at repeating your points. Good to see you,
well,
as always.
Nice to see you.